This low-carb lemon garlic chicken is so delicious, uses fresh ingredients, and it's ready in about 30 minutes, and you only need one skillet. So let's get to it. Welcome to the Salt and Pepper, where we cook for real life, using real food, and we keep it real simple. Today I'm gonna make a really simple skillet dish. Now, you know I usually use the Ninja Foodi, and I could use the Ninja Foodi for this recipe as well. So if you wanna use your Instant Pot or your Ninja Foodi, you absolutely can. You would just use the sear saute on high to make the recipe. But I'm gonna make it in a skillet because not everybody has the Ninja Foodi, and sometimes I find it to be a little bit easier for you guys to see if I have a lower profile skillet. And it works great either way, so let's get to it. All right, the first thing I wanna do is heat up my pan. I'm using a nonstick pan, but it really doesn't matter. You just wanna have a large enough pan to hold all the ingredients. But other than that, it doesn't matter. It can be cast iron, it can be stainless, it can be nonstick, it will not matter. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my induction cooktop here, and I'm gonna go on a fairly high heat. I'm gonna let the pan heat up for a little bit. So I would say if you're doing this on your stovetop, I would say medium high to high is what you want to start out with. We'll reduce that later, but right now you want the pan to get really nice and hot. Once it heats up, we're gonna add the olive oil, let that heat up, and then we'll saute this chicken. So let me talk about the chicken I have here. I am using about a pound and maybe a pound and a half of chicken breast that's boneless, skinless. It's been trimmed up. It's been seasoned with 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, and sliced into slices that are probably about 3 inches long by maybe 1.5 inches wide. It really doesn't matter for this recipe though. You could dice it up if you wanted to serve with your vegetable and your pseudo pasta, because we're going to use spaghetti squash for our pasta today to keep it low carb. But you can do the chicken any which way you want. I just found this way I can put it in and it's gonna saute and brown up on all the sides, and it's just really delicious in the dish. All right, so we're gonna start there. Now that the pan is heated, I'm gonna put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there and let it just heat up for about 2 to 3 minutes or so. Swirl it around in the pan, and then we will saute our chicken and we'll get to talking about all the rest of the vegetables. Now, if you wanted to make this vegetarian, you absolutely could, or you could substitute shrimp for this. What I would do is probably saute the shrimp a little bit to get some browning and then remove them, because you don't want them to overcook while we finish up with the rest of the ingredients. Or just simply skip any of the meat and you can make it vegetarian. All right, that looks good. Let's go ahead. Now, when I do this, I like to get it into the oil. See, it's not quite hot enough because I didn't hear the sizzle. And I actually place them around because I want to get browning on both sides. So I'm gonna let it saute on one side and flip it over. And then I'm gonna remove the chicken for a little bit, and I'll explain that when we get there. All right, now it's sizzling. All right, let's take a peek and see if the chicken's starting to brown, and it is. That looks good. That's what we want to see. And go ahead and flip it over and let it brown for another 2 minutes. All right, that looks good. Now you have some browning on the other side, and now I'm just gonna remove the chicken pieces. Now, technically, you could leave the chicken in, but I like to remove it so that I'm not worried about it overcooking while we reduce the tomatoes and add in the rest of the ingredients and really build this flavor. Now, you want to keep your pan on the hot side for this. Medium high is probably good right now. And I'm going to add in the cherry tomatoes. Now, these cherry tomatoes is about 2 pints, and I like to use the mixed variety. I just love the way that they look in this dish. But you could use all red cherry tomatoes. It's perfectly fine. This is important though, because this is what creates our sauce. So we want to add those in, and I just cut them in half, okay? We're going to add them into this hot pan. Give them a nice stir around in the olive oil. And now you can turn your heat down to medium. We're gonna add in our garlic. I have 2 bulbs, whole bulbs of roasted garlic. So I'm gonna add that in just by squeezing the cloves out. Now this is roasted and it's been chilled, so it's easy to handle. If you get any paper, just try to pull that off so you don't get it into your dish. I'm just gonna squeeze out the 2 bulbs of garlic. Now, roasted garlic is a very mild flavor, so it's perfectly fine to use 2 bulbs, and it gives the best flavor in this dish. Okay, give that a stir around. It's already starting to look delicious. Oh my gosh, so good. All right, next thing I'm gonna add in is some mini bell peppers. These are optional, or you could use regular bell peppers. These are like just mini peppers. I get those because they last a little bit longer for me. I'm using 9 of these. So you could use 2 to 3 bell peppers, any color that you like. I keep this with, the sweeter peppers, like the red, the orange, and the yellow. But really, if you wanted to add in green, it'd be perfectly fine. We're also gonna add in about a teaspoon of minced garlic. So we have 2 different types of garlic in this dish. One is the mild, slightly sweet roasted, and then we also have some minced garlic to add that extra punch of garlic. Now, if you're not a garlic fan, you could certainly leave that out, it'd be fine. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. All right, now we're gonna add in some simple seasonings. This is a 1/2 teaspoon of fine grind sea salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And I'm just gonna add that in. Remember, we already have some seasonings on our chicken. So when we add the chicken back in, that's gonna complete the salt and the pepper that we need. All right, next thing is an onion. Now this is totally optional because if you're keto, you may not want to use an onion, but I just do low carb and I'm perfectly fine with the onion, and I love the way it looks and I love the way it tastes. So I add in 1 red onion. I have them sliced, just into little slices, but you could dice them. You could do whatever you want, or you can omit the onion. It's perfectly fine. All right, now I'm gonna zest a lemon and add that in, but for right now, what I wanna do is put a lid on this and let everything sort of steam and start to cook, because we don't want a lot of evaporation from the cherry tomato juice. We wanna keep that in there because that's the base of our sauce for this recipe. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the lid on. I still have it on medium. I'm just gonna let that go while I zest my lemon. All right, let's go ahead and add in our lemon zest. Oh my gosh, this smells and looks amazing. And I'm also gonna juice the lemon. Now don't worry too much about how much lemon juice you get out of your lemon. It really doesn't make that much of a difference, but I like to just use 1. But if you really like a lot of lemon, you could add 2 lemons if you wanted. But I find 1 is plenty. And it's probably about a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. All right, let's go ahead and give this a stir around here. Oh my gosh, looks good. The onions are starting to wilt a little bit. That's perfect. Now, I like to keep my vegetables a little bit on the crunchy side. This is perfectly up to you. You can, if you like them softer, go a little bit more with the lid on right now. But they're looking pretty good, and we still have the spinach to add, and we want the chicken to come back in. So that's the first thing I'm gonna do, is go ahead and get this chicken back in to our skillet. And we'll just get this back in and put it right underneath here, so this will finish cooking. Oh my gosh, this is so, so beautiful. All right, now one thing that I add, which is just my preference, is a little bit, and I mean a little bit, like a 1/4 of a teaspoon, maybe even less, of red pepper flakes. I like a little bit of spice in this dish. That is totally up to you, but I'm gonna add those in right now. So if you don't like spice, don't put those in. You might need to add a little bit more pepper maybe, or some other seasonings if you want. And now we're gonna add on our spinach. And this is one of those things where you add the spinach in, put the lid on, and just let it wilt, okay? And it's 4 cups of spinach, which, you know, will reduce to almost nothing, really. And you could use more. You could use more or less, as long as you can fit it here. And then put your lid on and keep it at medium and let it cook for about 5 minutes. And then we will toss it around. We will add in 2 tablespoons of butter, and we will also cook our spaghetti squash. This spaghetti squash is from frozen. So what I did was I par cooked the spaghetti squash, and, you know, de-seeded it and brought out the actual strands of the spaghetti squash. And then I freeze them. And then when I want to heat them up, or, you know, serve them with a dish like we're gonna do today, I will put them in the skillet and reheat them. And you can do it right from frozen. It works great. So I'll show you that in just a bit. Once your spinach has wilted, you can turn your heat down now to low, okay? Go ahead and open this up. Now we wanna just take a temperature of the chicken to make sure that it has reached 165 degrees. So let's just go ahead and grab one here. Put it in there. Oh yeah, we're way up. Yep, so perfectly fine. Chicken's all the way cooked. Now we add in 2 tablespoons of butter. Now this is optional. You don't have to, but it does thicken this sauce. And of course, butter makes it really delicious. So I like to add that in. And now we just sort of move this around. Look at this beautiful sauce that we made. It's all out of fresh vegetables, olive oil, garlic, lemon juice. This is just simply amazing. Oh my gosh. So let that butter, oh, look at this, guys. Oh, I love this recipe. Now, if you wanted to make this similar dish with pasta, I actually have a recipe. It's a pressure cooker recipe that is pretty similar to this, but you use obviously a pressure cooker because you put it all together, and it doesn't have chicken in it, but you can always add the chicken in. But, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. And that is it. The only thing that I do recommend, of course, always, is tasting the sauce for seasonings. We want to make sure that it is perfectly seasoned. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's hard to believe that that flavor is coming from the cherry tomatoes, garlic, just the simple ingredients we used, because it is fantastic. All right, I'm gonna leave my induction burner on because we're gonna go straight in to cooking our spaghetti squash. So let me go ahead and get this up here. We're gonna put this into our container carefully. So whatever serving dish you have, you can just put it in there just like that. Oh my gosh. And I don't worry about even cleaning out the pan for this when I do the spaghetti squash to serve with it. Look at how gorgeous this is. Oh my gosh. It's one of my favorite quick dinners. It's super, super healthy. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is take this frozen squash, open up the bag, just pop them in from frozen. I'm gonna go up to medium heat, probably about 1/4 teaspoon of salt should do the trick, and a pinch of pepper. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, so now we're just gonna let that sit for just a few minutes. I'll toss it around, and then we will plate up. Now, if you wanna know how to make the spaghetti squash into these little nests, I have a video on that, and I will link to it right up there for you. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over. You can also steam these to reheat them. So if you wanted to be getting this done while you're making your dinner, you absolutely can. could probably even microwave them, although I have not tried that way, but I'm sure it would work just fine. So after a few minutes, go ahead and take the lid off if you're gonna do your spaghetti squash this way. And then I like to just kind of toss it around a little bit. You wanna sort of separate the strands out so that they heat a little bit more evenly. And you don't wanna overcook these, you know. I like to serve mine where they're a little crunchy still, but that is totally up to you. All right, now from here on out, I'm gonna turn up the heat to about medium, and now I'm gonna leave the lid off because it's pretty much thawed completely, but we've got a lot of liquid in here, and I like to burn some of that off. But this is looking good. Another thing I've done too when I'm making maybe a half of a batch of this is I add the spaghetti squash in frozen right as I add in the spinach. So I just move the mixture over to the side and then add my spaghetti squash in there, and I just mix it all up when I'm doing it just for me. All right, that looks good. I am ready to plate it up, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn my little burner here off. Get any excess water out of there. Put it right here on the plate. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. And now for the star of the show. Let's get some of this sauce and some of this chicken. Oh my gosh, look at that. I mean, this sauce is amazing too. Just love it. A little bit of spinach here. And if that's not enough spinach for you, you want more, add in more. All right, that looks so good. Now, if you wanted to make your sauce a little bit thicker, you can certainly add in some more butter, or you could thicken it if you're not worried about being low carb. You could thicken it with cornstarch slurry if you wanted to. All right, let's taste this chicken. Should be perfectly cooked. Make sure we get it in some of that sauce. Amazing. Nice garlic clove that is not going to be too pungent because it was roasted. Some of that spaghetti squash makes you feel like you're eating pasta, which I love. And a pepper. Perfect. This is amazing. So easy to make. Super healthy, and doesn't take very long either. So it's easy and it's quick and it's delicious. So give it a try. Remember, you can change the chicken. Oh, and let me tell you how to do the shrimp. So if you wanted to do the shrimp, I think I said this earlier, but I'm gonna say it again. Saute the shrimp for a little bit in the olive oil just to get them almost all the way cooked. Remove them just like we did with the chicken, and then add the shrimp in at the very, very end, because you don't want them to overcook or they'll become rubbery. But you could add shrimp to this. You could do chicken and shrimp. You could skip the chicken altogether. You could even do this with steak if you wanted. I mean, anything you want to do. You can customize the vegetables however you like. It's amazing, and I hope you enjoy it. As always, make it yours, make it delicious, and keep it real.